My entitled parents constantly allowed my little brother to steal from me, always making excuses for his behavior and yelling at me instead. Eventually, my aunt intervened and helped me out. Back when I was a kid, it was hard to have anything exclusively mine. As my brother got older, he craved money above all else. We both got equal allowances, but while I had to do chores for mine, he didn't. I usually saved my money, but he always wanted more. One day I came home to find my room ransacked and my money gone. I had hidden it from my brother, but he found it anyway. My mum was home when he did it and acted like she didn't notice. When I confronted her, she made excuses about my brother being special. My other family members eventually got her to admit the truth. My room was on the first floor, in view of the living room, so she must have seen him. Despite this, she kept making excuses. I demanded my money back, but my parents were no help. Eventually, I did get it back because I refused to let it go. My brother screamed as they took the money from his piggy bank and returned it to me. They looked disappointed, as if I had robbed him, even though he robbed me. They couldn't scold me because I wasn't in the wrong, and they knew it. A few months later, my brother ransacked my room again and stole my money. This time, my parents didn't want to do anything about it, saying they couldn't bear to see my brother disappointed. I reminded them that stolen money wasn't his and it was wrong to let it happen. My dad yelled at me and sent me to my room. The next day I rode my bike to my aunt's house and told her everything. She came back with me and confronted my parents. My mum made excuses about my brother's special needs, but my aunt reminded them that they had 2 sons and my feelings mattered too. My parents finally retrieved the money from my brother, who screamed the whole time. They threw the money at me, and my aunt told them off for their behavior. She offered to keep my money at her house in a lockbox, and I accepted. My brother ransacked my room 2 more times, but I was keeping all my money at my aunt's house. My parents asked where I was hiding it, but I refused to tell them. They got defensive when I asked why they wanted to know. My brother started tearing the house apart looking for my money, and I was forced to clean up the mess. My parents blamed me for the situation, using the excuse of my brother's special needs. The final straw came when my brother ransacked my parents' bedroom. He locked himself in, took their safe, and tried to open it. When my parents finally got the door open, he had destroyed the room. My dad yelled at my brother and grounded him, which was rare. They made him help clean up the mess. After that, my brother never ransacked our rooms again, but he kept looking for my money. I started giving false hints, leading him to search the backyard shed, dig holes in the yard, and ransack the attic. My parents hit their breaking point with the attic and grounded him again. My parents eventually figured out I was keeping my money at my aunt's house, but didn't argue. My brother, however, found out and tried to hunt for it when we visited my aunt. She threatened to press charges for any damages and kept a camera to record any incidents. My parents scolded my brother, telling him the money wasn't his, which made him cry. Eventually, he didn't want to go to my aunt's house anymore, so we visited less. My aunt visited us more often. I kept my money safe at my aunt's house until I moved out, and my brother never managed to steal from me again. In a similar frustrating situation, my ex is blaming me for everything, even though she was overly controlling our entire relationship. We had an argument after I casually mentioned having a few beers while playing Xbox with my brother. She was upset that I didn't tell her I was drinking. I felt attacked and interrogated over nothing, so I brought it up the next morning. She got mad at me for being sarcastic and said I was starting a fight for no reason. We dropped the argument and moved on with our day, texting normally. The next day I apologized for my part in the argument, but she said she needed time to think. After 5 days of silence, she broke up with me, blaming me for everything and saying I was hiding things from her. She used incidents from our past, when I was struggling with ADHD and anxiety, as her reasoning. Despite my improvements through therapy, she still held on to those past issues. This situation was incredibly frustrating, and it's clear that her controlling behavior and inability to move past old issues were significant problems in our relationship. My entitled parents constantly allowed my little brother to steal from me, always making excuses for his behavior and yelling at me instead. Eventually, my aunt intervened and helped me out. Back when I was a kid, it was hard to have anything exclusively mine. As my brother and I grew, the issue only worsened. He had sticky fingers, and every time he wanted something, he'd just take it. My parents always excused his behavior. They'd say things like, "He's younger. Let him have it, or you should share more." I remember when I saved up for months to buy a new video game. The day I got it, my brother swiped it from my room and broke it within hours. When I complained, my parents said I should have been watching it more carefully. They bought him a new toy as a reward for being honest about breaking it. This pattern continued for years. It wasn't just about toys, it extended to clothes, school supplies, and even food. Whenever I tried to stand up for myself, I was labelled selfish or greedy. My frustration grew, and I felt increasingly isolated. Things reached a boiling point when I got a job and started earning my own money. I bought a bike with my first paycheck. Predictably, my brother took it without asking, and it came back with scratches and a flat tire. When I confronted him, my parents blamed me for not sharing. Around this time, my aunt noticed something was wrong. She saw my frustration and the weariness in my eyes. During a family gathering, she pulled me aside and asked what was going on. I poured out my heart, explaining everything. She was livid but told me to hang in there. A few weeks later, my birthday came around. My aunt gave me a gift card and told me to use it for something I wanted. I bought a new pair of headphones, something I had been eyeing for a while. I kept them hidden, but my brother found them and took them to school. When he returned, they were broken. I had enough. I called my aunt in tears, and she told me to pack a bag and come stay with her for a while. My parents were furious, accusing me of running away and being ungrateful. But my aunt stood her ground and told them they needed to realize the damage they were doing. Living with my aunt was a revelation. For the first time, I felt respected and valued. She encouraged me to pursue my interests and supported me in ways my parents never did. Slowly, I rebuilt my confidence and started focusing on my studies. Years later, I'm in a much better place. I've cut contact with my parents, but my brother and I have reconciled. He admitted he was a spoiled brat and apologized for his behavior. I've forgiven him, but I haven't forgotten the lessons I learned. I'm grateful for my aunt. Without her intervention, I don't know where I'd be today. She taught me the importance of self-worth and standing up for myself. I now advocate for others who feel powerless, ensuring they don't go through what I did. Next, we have a story from a guy whose girlfriend used his past against him. I've been with my girlfriend for a couple of years now, and things have been great for the most part. However, I have a history of anger issues. I went to therapy and worked hard to improve. Recently, I slipped up and had a minor outburst. My girlfriend immediately dumped me, citing my past behavior as the reason. It feels like she was just waiting for an excuse to leave. I've been trying to get back into therapy, but since I just graduated and can't afford it, it's been tough. I'm working on finding a job and getting insurance, but she just didn't understand. What should I do? It sounds like his girlfriend used his past against him, which is unfair. If someone genuinely tries to improve themselves, they deserve recognition for their efforts. Her behavior seems immature and controlling. It might be a blessing in disguise that he's out of that relationship. Finally, we have a story about a mother-in-law who keeps trying to feed meat to her vegetarian daughter-in-law. My mother-in-law is very overbearing and keeps trying to feed me meat. I've been a strict vegetarian since I was 10. Despite knowing this, she constantly offers me meat dishes. I used to think she was just clueless, but it's become clear she's doing it on purpose. She once cooked veggies in bacon fat and claimed she didn't know I couldn't eat it. I even offered to bring my own food, but she insisted on cooking for us. It got to a point where I refused to eat anything she made. When I got pregnant, she was initially supportive, helping around the house and bringing me vegetarian food. But once my morning sickness passed, she started cooking meat again. The last straw was when she made vegetarian meatballs that turned out to be pork. I threw up and felt betrayed. My husband confronted her, and we kicked her out. She's been begging for forgiveness, but I'm wary. What if she ignores our future child's dietary needs too? I don't know if I can trust her anymore. This mother-in-law's behavior is completely disrespectful. Forcing someone to eat something against their dietary restrictions is unacceptable. Setting clear boundaries is essential, and if she continues to ignore them, keeping her at a distance might be necessary. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. If you enjoyed these stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And for your next live stream, search for Cream of the Stream on Spotify for copyright-free music.